love your hair, dude. Like when we were looking through your submission, I was going through like different pictures of you in interviews and stuff. And I was like, look at this. And then as soon as we came on the camera together, what did you say?
I said, you got it down here. I got it up here, man. Let's meet in the middle.
That's right.
Oh, man. That's awesome. I love that.
Marcus Aurelias Higgs, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Jay. What do you say? It's a good day to be alive.
Living the dream. It's a great day to be on this side of the dirt. That's the way I like to look at it. Right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that your namesake is a stoic Roman emperor with a great book of meditations that you, not unlike yourself, you have something similar as well. So welcome to the show. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to, apply. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So let's go ahead.
Boom. My name, it is Marcus Aurelias Higgs. My dad gave me that name. He's on the other side of this computer. He's in another room. I'm a communication coach for parents of preteens. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you how I got here, but I did study communication journalism, went straight off to be a missionary English teacher. My worldview expanded, no animosity towards the church or anything. And I've always had a sincere relationship with the divine and prayer life and so on. Experienced and learned about Islam as a world religion when I taught there for 2 years with a petrol company.
Beautiful.
Lived in Thailand for 7 years. Learned of Buddhism and so on, and Eastern philosophy and philosophy in general. My name is Philosopher. Living a good life has always been curious to me. And now I am with my aging parents here in the Bahamas. I grew up in the Bahamas, was born in California. My mom's from the Philippines, got the island on both sides.
Oh, man, you've got soul times a million. That's a dynamic combination there. That's extremely passionate, soulful, loving, caring. Like you've got the great cultures combined in you.
I didn't realize it until I just said it now. I have realized it, but I'm tapping into it again. And I really do feel called to serve the developing world. I have lived inside the developed world. That's who I coach and I work with, in the sense of mental well-being, because I've seen the intersection of humanity. And that's the work I do. Yeah. That's why I'm here, Jay.
I love that. And I like that you've placed an intersection at a very critical moment in the development of life, right? I think that it's overlooked the years that are their predecessors are all fun games and nurseries and things like that. But that's kind of a rude awakening when the puberty years hit and judgment, and you begin to develop that mask, or you have to create it as quickly as possible under duress, which is the worst way to create a character to navigate life. Because unfortunately, you're starting out with a character, not a true understanding of self. And I think that you are setting up a really good format for people to get their children to understand who they truly are, their self-worth in advance of scrutiny from outside societal biases and things of that nature. And I can't thank you enough for doing that.
You said it very well. Like, I'm going to take some notes from you.
Much like yourself, I sit and contemplate. This is what I do. I think we have two philosophers here. We're just getting we have a fro versus a beard. Like we're gonna have a philosopher off.
Dude, I'll meet you right there. This is what we used to do in the class. So I am an English language arts teacher. I taught in schools as well as language schools, but I taught inside the AP program, for those who are familiar. It's American traditional education while I was abroad. So this is the first identity breaking. And just like you said, we're all a character. We're the protagonist of our own story. And there are antagonists, not necessarily villains. Antagonist just means anything that's against you. And that's what creates conflict. But when you're going against something and this is your first identity breaking, You don't know how to manage it. Emotions are high. And actually, this is a natural progression of life. This is like how it's supposed to happen. Oftentimes, those who are in the caregiving roles, parents, teachers, coaches, and so on, we don't know how to communicate with the person there. And we don't know what to expect. And that's why this stage of life, this developmental stage, often goes all out of whack. And that's even before you layer on social media. And that's the new catalyst of this time.
That scares me. No, that scares me tremendously. I have a son that's going to be born soon, and I look at social media and I look at how I grew up, and I understand that it's all relative as to how, pain is taken over time and how lenses are created, and the two will be completely different yet one and the same. When my child starts to go into social media and that world, I am extremely scared of the repetitive cycle that it calls on the emotions. I liken it to a slot machine with things like Sarah McLachlan, and then the next thing is death and mayhem. Then the one after that is somebody slipping and falling. And then the one after that is, a prayer. And then the one after that, and then depending on how much you fed into it, you may get dialed into one particular type for a while. And I can't imagine that kind of thread on a mind that is in such a fragile and malleable state, right?
Yep.
So getting to these parents and giving them tools for their toolbox, which most of the time, we don't have those tools. We don't all have the same set of tools. We didn't come out of childhood and into adulthood and rearing children with the same box. It's not an issued kit. So a gatekeeper like yourself to stand there and be like, hey, let's check everybody's lunchbox. Make sure we all got ICs. Make sure we all got plates before we step out here, right? Do we need that, though? I like to simplify things.
Yes. The short answer is yes, we do need that. There's a book called The Anxious Generation, and I'll explain what you just said scientifically, or in my way. I love to look at it as narrative. We are the stories we tell ourselves. Kids forming their identity. We're noticing with this generation, there was an uptick in 2012 of where this mental well-being and mental health crisis started, we saw. And that's when kids started forming their identities behind the glass, I like to call it. That's when they're finding their identities in likes and in social groups that are not in their local community. And mind you,
they're finding self-worth outside of self.
Yes. And self-worth is another way to say how they value themselves, or self-esteem. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a person who waves his hand saying, damn you, technology. That's not me.
No,
like we're talking here. I get it. Yeah. But as a millennial, I assume with the wisdom in your beard, your brain.
No, I am a Gen X, sir. How dare you? How dare you insult
I'll give it to you.
Now, as long as, are you one of those, elder millennials?
I'm 82, man. No shame in my game.
You are. No, you're like in our backup crew. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. But we formed our stories before social media came along, and we're hijacked us forming our stories. Even when you start a YouTube channel, it is made to say, hey, how can we let these people feel like they're our friends? How can we make them feel familiar? And what happens is when you close the screen, who are you? And this is the thing, Jay. Life is about managing stress. The 3 types of stress. There's a stress just to live, maintain. There's a stress that blindsides you. And there's a stress for expansion. If you don't know who you are, you can't manage stress. And that's why a lot of kids are just being folded.
We have to develop the self-worth out of authenticity, in my mind. Yes. Because I feel we're born one way. To be anything other than that is a slap in the face of whomever or whatever created you, right? And if we can take the natural characteristics of a child and foster them in a manner where they're not nefarious or, taken off course, and let them be naturally what they're inclined to be. And I'm saying this like I've got the answer. I'm scared as shit. I want to put a sign over my kid's door that says there's You're not your ego. You are not your ego. And gratitude and things like that. Like, I want it to be ingrained that when you go outside and a friend of yours is screaming in your face, that you feel compassion, because no matter what they're saying, it's about them. Always about them. And if I can instill that early on, then that self-worth and that, that flame will be protected. It won't have, somebody constantly trying to blow it out, because it's already past that point. It's been nurtured. It's been wood been thrown on it. It's been given, kind words and encouragement, so that when it steps out into the world, it's not a candle that you can just put under a glass, right? It's already there.
And anything you throw on it is but fuel for the fire. And that's actually, that's the program I do, the startup framework. And we can get into it then. But the S is start with a strong identity. Start with a strong identity. Now check this out, right? In the idea of start with a strong identity, we look at virtues and values. Have you ever heard of the 24 virtues in action? Have you heard of this concept?
Please share.
I'll explain for the audience. It comes from positive psychology. It looks at ancient wisdom and modern science. And these are 24 characteristic traits that are with all humans, all cultures, all religions. If you breathe, and you can hear me right now, you have these 24 characteristic traits.
Okay.
Things such as...
Are we talking like Myers-Briggs almost? Like you're getting in there and finding slices of each, just as like for people trying to, for people to understand, not particularly that this is Myers-Briggs, but for them to understand that it's giving you slices of a whole and how how they come together.
An introspection of you.
Correct.
But it's accessible language. So things such as creativity, leadership, gratitude, because there are 5 that are most expressed with you, uniquely you. And then 5 that are uniquely mine. Mine is fairness, creativity, and so on, and hope, and so on. Now, those are our virtues. The thing about virtues is that they're working to the well-being of the community or working to the well-being of yourself. Right? Everybody has virtues. Then there's values. Values are the things that are important to you. Could be family, could be finances, could be fun, right? Values are individually what's important to you. If we start there, and we start to give evidence and examples to the kid of, hey, this is what I noticed. Really, all this is about is walking with the kid in their mind to help them craft and create their own character of how they're going to show up in the world when they show up. One thing before we get on to that is I used to work with kids. I used to be a mentor. I work with parents now. And I work with parents so that they can have that relationship and build that trust, because trust is built over the long term. And like I used to be with them 1 year and then jump out, 1 year and jump out. It's like, well, no, if I want to have longer effect, who would have the most impact? Parents. I want to give you the gift. That's it.
Well, it is. And it's impacting multiple generations at the same time. And you're allowing yourself to give them the opportunity to heal in their own way. I feel like when you give somebody the tools in retrospect, you're actually giving them the keys to understanding at the same time, right? Their ability to look and see where the nurturing fell short in their childhood or was not applied in a certain way, or maybe their misconceptions of what actually happened to them, because instead of getting that one mask, if you will, your character of life, or maybe even your natural face and just embracing it, right? A lot of people have numerous masks.
Yeah.
They pick it up. AT&T gets a voice. Mom gets a voice. Job gets a voice. Interview gets a voice. Partying gets a voice. But what happens is, if you're not given that foundational perspective on what a mask is and what a feeling and an opportunity is, or a moment in time, then you start to collect those and have to go out into life remembering who you were in all those roles. And what eventually happens, you fracture. You hit 40 years old, you buy a car that's out of character, you leave your wife, you do all these things because you have broken under stress. You've been carrying a metaphorical sack of masks to represent you. And every time you go from room to room, you have to dig in that bag and pull out the one that you need and remember what it was. And that eventually is going to cause some serious problems. And to give people that, if you're catching parents when they're in the, the younger years of their children's lives, you're giving them the opportunity to not burn out later.
Hey, you know what it is? In a phrase, there's no greater privilege than to be who you are.
Bro,
That's
it's beautiful. And I didn't always think that. Who doesn't?
well, you know what? And this is the thing, right? I think life is continually asking, who are you? And the way it asks you, who are you? Everything that eventually grows must first break. And when I say the first identity breaking, in communication, we say there's nothing wrong with conflict. Every relationship has conflict, but that doesn't define the relationship. What defines it is how you manage the conflict. Like, what story are you going to tell yourself after it? And anybody who's broken knows that. It's Ernest Hemingway. He says, life breaks us all, and some are made whole in the broken places. But those who refuse to break are utterly destroyed. It's learning how to repair and reconnect, because that's how we grow. We're stress progressive.
I love that.
It's when you know that you have that tool of repairing yourself and reconnecting, and that comes from parents setting the tone. They are the adults in the room, so they set the tone for teaching the kid how to repair and reconnect. That's resilience.
Be reliable. Be the same person all the time. Try to remain immovable as much as possible. And that comes through that authenticity, because you were talking about writing your narrative after you walk away from situations or being with people, that storyline that you give yourself in your head, right? I love that you pointed that out, because I feel like there's a larger group, and myself included for so long, in that I would have that narrative after the communication with somebody when I left that scenario. And I'd like to think almost like I was plugging in pieces of Tetris to justify my positions in various scenarios. We do this. How did we end off with that person? Because they're remembering it when we go back. How did I leave off with them? Were we in a good place? But there is such a great feeling from authenticity when you come back to interactions with friends and family, and that you're not racking your brain about what mask, what personality, what you brought to I'm not talking about lying and being, somebody that's scamming. I'm just talking about a fake front where you're trying to get people to like you in whatever defensive mechanism that you have. But when you don't use that, interactions become easier and easier. And the less that you have a mask, the more likely the person you're interacting with will take their own off.
Now check this out, right? Remember how I said start with strong identity? If you're starting from a space of well-being for the other person, like if you're assuming, you don't have to assume positive intent of another person. If you're approaching with positive intent, regardless if they receive you or not, you know who you are. And you know what? Sometimes you will come with positive intent. I'm reminded of that Office clip where he's like, "Well, sorry for being a friend."
Dude, that is such a nasty thing to do to people too. Like, it's so backwards. I hate those types of manipulative statements. I love that show, but when it's
but
loaded.
My whole point was being, if you're showing up with your virtues, right? And I know virtues might be if you're showing up for the well-being of other people and you're showing up for the well-being of yourself, you don't have to worry so much. People will rub you the wrong way, and you will rub other people the wrong way. But you know what? Rumi said, if we avoid everything that rubs us, however will we shine? So the thing is, rock up, show up with well-being, and you know what? You don't have to think so much about all the other stuff. You don't have to worry so much. You will have some friendships that break up. You'll gain some new friendships, but that's how you're authentic with yourself. You're keeping it real. And that
it's a radio
good.
Frequency. You're going to change your dial. You're going to change your dial through time. And the more that you figure out who you are, the less times you're going to be on different channels. But you can be in the same room as everybody else and be on a different station. It's that easy. And the people that like your station and your music will gravitate to you. And eventually the others will just atrophy, or they'll change their station later, right?
They say when you can't change the people you're with, change the people you're with.
Dude, you're not wrong. But we don't realize how easy it is. It is that easy to change in any moment in time and become a different human. That's the beauty of it. Religion says it a million times over, ask for forgiveness and try again. Why do you think that's the case? Because you were born without a clue, you didn't have a choice, and there's an automatic reset button because we all are going to fuck up.
Hey, and check this out now, right? So, but this is the thing, right? I hear you. And in that quote, when I said, when you can't change the people you're around, change the people you're around, you're also a vibe that influences other people.
Calm is contagious. We said that in our last episode. Yeah. It is.
Yeah. And that's why you seek leadership, whereas, again, your vibe attracts your tribe. Thinking about it, collective identity, that's what culture is. Sometimes you're in a culture that isn't aligned with you. And again, that's where all this tension is. There's nothing wrong with tension. But if you know who you are, tension can come and it'll define you more, and then tension will release and it'll still ask you, who are you? That's where the start is, man.
Tension does give you the understanding of who you are in a new situation. And that new understanding gives you some kind of tool for a future interaction. Just because it rocked the boat at that moment doesn't mean that there isn't something down the road that's just going to benefit from it. Or just self-awareness alone that you may be able to pass on to your children, at some point. Hey.
Well, you know what? Or self-awareness you receive from your children, because the person who knows your insecurities the best is yourself. The person who knows them second best are your kids. So.
Bro, any kid under the age of, I don't know,
what's
10
this?
will pick you to shreds with anything that you have on you that you have issue with. Your teeth, your ears, your nose, your eyes, and they will deadpan ask you, like, why is your tooth on the right cracked in half? You're like, but why are you asking me this? You just feel
that John Mulaney joke. He said he was walking by the middle school and the 8th graders were across the street, and they said, "Oh, you high-waisted man." He goes, "Oh, that's my exact insecurity."
It's like, no. But if you were in love with your high waist and the way that you looked and embraced it, or like him. He is great at laughing at those positions in life, right? But I think that's a lot of comics comes from pain, right? That's where comedy is derived from.
He will also laugh at his coke habit, which he's open about, which, it's, and again, it shows resilience. It shows growth. And that the thing is, kids at this age, preteens and early adolescence, whenever they're broken, oftentimes they wonder what's wrong with me. So then the H in the show up process is hold space for collaboration. And that's critical thinking and problem solving, but you're doing it along with them. It's called autonomous scaffolding or support. You're working alongside with the kid to help process, again, the thoughts in their head.
Running beside the bike.
Yeah. I like that. I'm putting that metaphor in my pocket. That's in the next podcast.
That's if there's anything I do correct in life, it's I'm Mr. Metaphors. I love them because it bridges divides in language, socioeconomics. It doesn't put anybody on the carpet for feeling like they're inadequate in any way. It gives them a position where they can go, Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense. Like sometimes it stings. Like that's why I love comedy. Like comedy is
Yeah.
so good at pointing out all those idiosyncrasies in, society and the implicit biases in front of large groups where they're not directly pointing at an individual, yet they're allowing that individual to see what society or their peers think about that scenario. Hey, maybe
Yep.
it's not as acceptable as I thought it was, or maybe I was doing this the whole time and didn't know it was unacceptable, right? And then you
Yep.
get to change your tune without being put on the carpet. Plus, people don't listen when you yell at them. They never will. Have you ever convinced somebody of a different position in life by screaming in their face?
People change from the inside out.
Right.
Yep. And then go on. Yeah.
Laughter is such a beautiful way to express yourself, and it makes you receptive to so many more things. Please go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to add to it. Now I was thinking Kennison, that one comedian, he used to yell.
Dude.
But the point I was going to make is all growth starts from the truth. And what comedy does, good comedy, it speaks truth to it. And then the second idea is that what gets mentioned gets managed. So it's not until we start this conversation that we can actually start talking about it. So, I mean, I don't know whoever listens to this podcast, but when you understand, I will take a side and position on this. When Dave Chappelle is speaking about his experience with transgenders, one, he's opening up the conversation, but two, you see, he's not being vindictive or malicious. He really is caring, especially when he talks about that story with Daphne. And then it opens up the conversation of, okay, well really what's going on here? And he makes us laugh. So that's a three whammy. We're opening up the conversation, well-being, and
I'm with you 100%. No, you bring up Dave Chappelle, you bring up that, and I don't necessarily take stances any way, shape, or form, except for that every individual has a right to express their individuality in any way, shape, or form they so choose, right?
Yeah.
Nobody should be able to fuck with anybody else's experience. Let them be who they are. Dave Chappelle is one of my favorite comedians of all time. Just saw him in this last tour, this last Netflix special. I saw him, and that came up. That was his opener in it, right? And I swear to you, I sit in a bizarre position. By no means am I ever going to say that I understand what it is to be transgender. However, I was raised in a small hillbilly town with gynecomastia and told every day that I was transgender, and any other thing screamed at, made fun of and ridiculed and things thrown at me. And being told you're somebody that you're not is something that I understand, right? And I don't think he's telling anybody that there's something that they're not, right?
And mind you, go finish your thought.
No, and I think one of the biggest problems of this is the communication around what it is that he's actually describing. He's saying that I am looking at things that I see with the eyes that I have had, the lenses, the prescription that I've had. 45 years, I have written this fucker. I've gone through all these experiences, and they tell me today what I'm looking at does not match shit in the back of my head, right? It's like somebody handing you a new set of glasses and going, shit. Okay, I'm not saying this isn't this, but we're going to laugh at the fact that the back of my head is not reading this correctly, because I know I've accidentally misgendered before, saying something and not intentional in any way, shape, or form. Dude, this show is all about LGBTQ. We've had so many people, so many great influences. My son's, godparents are two gay men that are in their 50s, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a world that I'm passionate about. And I feel like, like you said, they're opening up conversation and not taking on an affront or, trying to hurt somebody in the process.
Man, you touched on so many things there, right? One definition of crazy is when your expectations don't match reality. And all Dave Chappelle is doing is he's laughing at his craziness, right?
Exactly.
And he's owning it. He's saying, this is my experience. The second thing I like to see is, you know what I tell people? I say, I can't stand it, but when people say I don't see color, I'm just like, well, come on.
How do you not?
How do you not, right? So I say,
also
I do
boring.
see your color. Right? That's the world in black and white. I say, I do see your color. I do see your afro. I see your beard. I see your country. And all of it is accepted. All of it is accepted.
Dude, it's
You know what I mean?
seasonings.
It makes it
Seasonings and
flavorful.
soup. Dude, we all have our own individual pot of soup that we walk around through life. And what you're supposed to do is visit these colors, we'll say colors,
Yeah.
cultures,
Sure.
languages, whatever they are. And you're supposed to bring your soup
Spice
and
of life.
share it and take something from that culture and season yours. But bear in mind, once it's in there, it's not coming out. So make sure you don't fuck up your soup. You drop something in there, you can fish it out with a fucking strainer, but it's still there. Like,
hey, and you know what? Not everybody's soup is for everybody, and that's okay. That's life.
No, I've seen a lot of soup that I've lived all over the world as well, and I can tell you, I love variety, the slice of life. Eat as much as you can wherever you go, but there are some things that I will never go near again. Like one of them is ikasumi spaghetti in Japan. That is the nastiest that I ever. No, it's like this squid ink pasta thing. And I'm sorry, but squid ink smells like a 9 Lives can that's been left outside for a fucking year. It is so gross. It smells like hot tuna and shoes. Like, I don't know how else to describe. And it tastes the same.
Perfect.
You can't get it past your nose and into your mouth. And it turns your mouth black too, which is weird.
Different.
It is. But I'm with you. There's some things that you embrace, some things you take with you, other things you just leave as they are. And that's an experience. Changed me. I knew that I would not be an inky dude.
An inky dude. Well, I mean, if we come back to human development, right? I always say there's dependence and then there's independence. And eventually we're moving towards interdependence. That's what you're doing with you and your kid. Right. And there are emotions caught up in it. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but the eventual human, like the final form of all of this is interdependence. And that's what we're doing inside your family. And that's what we're doing inside societies and culture too. And what that means is I will take care of me to be in service to you as you promise to take care of you to be in service to me. That's exactly what it is.
Give and take.
Hey,
give and take.
Yeah.
Share.
Yeah.
Share the burden, share the happiness, share it all. Right? So I think we're on the letter O.
Oh, open up communication.
Right?
Open up communication.
And how do you open up communication with a 12-year-old and a 47-year-old or something? What is that? That's the bridge less traveled, right?
Less traveled. You know what it is? It's a bridge of empathy. And it's as easy as ABC. Now, there are many strategies and tactics. The strategy is to, one, in all communication, know your audience first, right? So there's this awesome book called The Breakthrough Years by Ellen Galansky. And what it is, it's like an advocate for what kids are going through, understanding and explaining what they want inside the communication patterns with parents. I'll give you this framework. There's a tactic, ABC. You accept what the person is saying. Doesn't mean you agree. You accept it because it is their truth.
Validate it.
It's validated.
Correct.
Yep. And validate comes from valid, meaning truth. It is, I see. After you validate it, you actually build upon it because you're saying, I understand why you see it like that. Matter of fact, here's another reason and another reason. And in a sense, you're making an argument for them. And then you're not at contention, but rather you're both looking at this issue now. And you've taken the issue out of the person, but you're like, oh yeah, this is the idea, not issue, the idea. And then the third thing you do is, here you go.
No, I love this. Please keep going.
The third thing you do is get curious, and you get curious you confront it with a question, because with a question, like I told you, all change happens from the inside out. You don't try to defend, deny, or beat the person down. You ask a question, I wonder, blah, 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 because when you leave, that question stays with that person. And plus, nobody has ever won an argument arguing against another person's point. You're not going to change your mind.
It doesn't happen.
You change their mind by agreeing with them, building upon it, and then creating curiosity by saying, and you're not seeding doubt, but you're actually critically thinking. You're saying, I wonder this. and you're getting the conversation started in their head. Go on. Yeah.
You're giving somebody your prescription lens as a gift to examine life through. And if you do it correctly, you're not just giving them a temporary look like you're at the dinner table. You're actually saying, hey, take a look through these, and I'm going to leave this layer with you. I'm going to say from now on, always question X, Y, or Z when you come to this juncture if I leave you with anything. And I do believe that when you speak to people and you found that it is your moment to give them a piece of advice, not forcing it on people, these things present themselves, right? That you are well within your rights to point out to them at that moment that it is that moment, right? And the reason why I say that is I like to set waypoints. Waypoints are easier to see if you're told in the moment where they are. Most of the time we get them in retrospect, but if it's a moment where you can give somebody a definitive understanding, tell them, hey, look, I'm going to be your friend today. I'm going to tell you you're doing everything right. And this right here, from my perspective, is one of the things that you could benefit from to be even better, right? To reach your full potential. Know that going forward today, you were told that you are unstoppable. And now you have an extra tool for your toolbox. Go get them.
Hey, yeah.
I don't care if it's in the grocery store. It doesn't matter. You'll know. The weirdest shit happens. It happens when it happens. But if you're looking, you're going to find opportunities. And you know what you're not looking for? Shit.
You find what you're looking for.
Yeah, you find what you're looking for. Why do you think the Facebook page is full of dog shit? Right? Those community pages? Dog shit. Dog shit. Because you're all looking at the ground.
Yep.
Lift your head up and you might recognize that it's a sunny day.
Oh, man. Life happens and we give it meaning. It's just when you find yourself in communities where people are choosing disempowering meanings.
Why?
Their truth.
Validate it.
It's validated.
Correct.
Yep. And validate comes from valid, meaning truth. It is, I see. After you validate it, you actually build upon it. Because you're saying, I understand why you see it like that. Matter of fact, here's another reason and another reason. And in a sense, you're making an argument for them. And then you're not at contention, but rather you're both looking at this issue now. And you've taken the issue out of the person, but you're like, oh yeah, this is the idea, not issue, the idea. And then the third thing you do is, here you go.
No, I love this. Please keep going.
The third thing you do. Oh man, to be well adjusted to a profound. What came to mind was, I was going to say, to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society is no measure of health at all. That's Christian Murney. And again, it's people like us do things like this. That's one definition of culture. And it's easy in the culture to be a victim because it absolves you from having to make an effort towards certain things.
You are speaking so much truth. I firmly believe that the victim chair comes with cup holders and a recliner, right? And it also comes with an LED sign over you that you get to change that says, I could have, I would have, and I should have, but I couldn't because I was wronged. Feel for me, and while I sit in my chair and get the accolades of the person that actually got out there and did it through some kind of transference in your victimhood while wasting the now, the gift that is the present. It's aptly named, right? It's a gift, dude. And they're just sitting in the chair wasting all of that to what? Get on their deathbed and look back and be like, hey, man, I don't care how many arms or legs you have. You still only have one life. Just because you lost it doesn't mean you need to stop. You got to fucking keep going because you just wasted it. Our animals around us give us the biggest clues. Chop a dog's leg off, what happens? He runs off. Chop a human's leg off, what happens? He writes a book. Right? You know what I mean? It's all about perspective. And I'm not saying that it's not a traumatic experience, lose your leg, yada, yada, yada. These are metaphors, examples. But in that
disclaimer.
But there's truth to be found inside of the animal kingdom in that they do not hold on to the pain of the ego for the loss of something when they still have the ability to enjoy the now.
Another thing worth noting is the creator question. And the question simply is, what do you want? Have you ever heard? I'll explain it for the audience. That's there's called the TED, the empowerment dynamic, and it's by a guy named David Emerald. So you have this triangle, and it's reflected the same way, and there are 3 points on it. Now, this triangle is the empowerment triangle. At the top of it is a creator. Over here, you have a conflict or challenge. And then over here, you have a mentor or teacher. This is life. This is character development. You have the creator who's forging their path forward, and they come to a conflict or problem. And the mentor says, hey, I've gone this path before. Here, you can do it. This will help you along the way. Right? If you invert that triangle, and it's pointing down, you have the victim. Then you have a problem that's insurmountable. And then you have a rescuer. And what happens is the victim faces a problem that they say, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? And the rescuer says, hey, you can't do it. Let me do it for you. Now, the thing is,
victim enablement.
All the characters are all the same. You get to choose your perception of, do I want to act as a victim or do I want to act as a creator? And the creator question is, what do I want? And you're worthy of pursuing what you want, especially if you're bringing well-being to those and yourself. Yeah.
Day out. Right?
Talk to me about that. Tell me. I
when
didn't
you
get that.
Stick your head in it, I may have misspoke how I was explaining it. To me, it's like a vacuum. When you put your head in there, it's double the effort to try to come back to mindfulness. To get out of the character or the role, it is so much harder to get out of the situation and to maintain that mindfulness again. Like I find myself, it requires effort. You've got to push yourself backwards. You got to clip thoughts. You got to go, okay, what's going on? Wait a minute. What have I been doing for X amount of time? Because sometimes you can sign up to be a character for a month and not realize you've been a character. Even though you're mindful, you have been in this one. This particular scenario has got your number, right? Yeah. That's the way I like to look at it.
You know, that reminds me of another metaphor that I have. Whenever you're looking at a story or a play, or they say you need 3 things. The first thing is a director. In a storybook, that's called the writer, and that's the person who directs the attention. Hey, notice this. Focus at Chekhov's gun or whatever, right? The second thing is you have the audience. The audience is the one making the meaning. Like they're watching what's happening on stage. And as you said, they're observing. The third is the actors on stage. Those are the ones with the desires, who are moving things, and they're having conflict and everything. Now get this. When you understand you are the author, the audience, and the actors all in the same, you start to write an awesome story. But get this. You're also collaborating with other people, higher forces, greater powers, and then just other people on this stage of life. You're collaborating. You're writing the story with other people too. So you have agency, and then you have collective agency, and then you just find people you're aligned with again. Back to our previous point. Yeah.
You're not wrong. And I think that all comes back to authenticity. It is a puzzle. Each human is an individual puzzle piece that is authentically created. You're either a corner, a middle, a side, whatever you are, but you're that piece. And when you start acting like a different piece, the puzzle doesn't come together. But if you act like yourself, then all those other pieces, once they're doing the same thing, will create a beautiful picture. All we have to do is all be ourselves and things will fall into place because we're not made wrong. Right?
You're right. We're not made wrong. And we continually forge ourselves forward to make ourselves into the person we want to be.
Right? Stop bending the corners of your puzzle pieces, some bitch. Nothing worse than going to like a cabin and somebody having like one of those community puzzles that 8,000 kids put together before you. You find like, a curse word on one. This one's bent. Your puzzle pieces are tattooed. Don't be a puzzle piece unless that's the piece you were issued. If you are that puzzle piece, be the coolest bent up puzzle piece that fits right in your spot. There's a spot for you, I promise. Absolutely. So show up, right? So are we at W or U?
We're at W. We're at W.
All right, let's do it.
So start with a strong character. Start with a strong sense of character. Hold space for collaboration. Open up the communication. And W is wonder and explore this world together. So mind you, in this whole framework, I'm working one-to-one with a parent. So I don't necessarily work with your kid. This is personal development, but using the thing that's most relevant to you, your offspring. And wonder and explore this world together means working on projects. It's project-based learning. That's what we took it from the classroom, but I call it project-based living. Having a goal, staying with it for long periods of time, expressing yourself, again, your character, and then through the ups and downs, it gives you a space to have conversation with your kid. And where am I? Yeah, wonder and explore this world together. For you, it might be your podcast, it might be your business. For your kid, it might be a language they're learning, a sport they're doing, and you're making the connections. And it's giving you a place to meet, to connect on.
I disrespecting yourself by not doing it.
Hey, yeah,
that's my thought. Like, I spent a lot of years not being me, but being a great person in different roles, or, you know, a horrible person in certain junctures and certain eyes. But I know that I collected all those things to be here now and do what I'm doing now, right?
Yeah.
And those experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. But I do recognize that there was a lot of time that I could have been me and enjoyed the living shit out of life, knowing what I know now. Right?
Yeah.
But I also would have taken a lot of things for granted. I wouldn't have been as, you know, careful with the gifts that are given when you act authentically. I think that you can act authentically for periods in life and have moments of clarity, and then you go back into what is to live behind the mask. That's mindfulness. And managed mindfulness. I think that that's a day-to-day thing that we have to go through. And I find myself personally where I will, in one moment, be the observer, right? Know who I am, know where I am, know what is going on and taking in life. And then there are other times where I sign up to play the game. And somebody says something, the right moment, and suddenly I'm no longer reading the book. I'm a character again. Right? I'm no longer an observer and I'm in it. And what they don't tell you is it's twice as hard to get out than it is to stay. As you were saying that, I was thinking, it popped into my head that we're talking about a childhood, right? And we so often want to tell children that they need to embrace it because they're not going to know what they missed. Be a child, enjoy being a child. You're not going to know, you know, what you missed and when you're an adult, yada, yada, yada. And then you tell me to show up, and the W is live this life with my child whimsically, dreaming and enjoying it together. And to me, I don't see what the downside is of revisiting childhood, right? Why wouldn't you want to take another opportunity to do it again, but with a sidekick, right?
Hey.
And if you had a fucked up childhood, that's more reason to go back and live one with your kid again.
And
right?
rewrite it.
Rewrite it. Write what you wanted together, right?
Yeah.
If your kid loves action figures, get some with them, right? Why not buy an action figure? Because they're fun. You know what, dude? When people aren't looking and there's no judgment, I bet you hand a guy a Transformer, he'll sit there and do that thing 150 times and enjoy it and probably drive it on the table, the whole nine, right? Until the boss walks in the room, right? Or the person that we need to be a certain person in front of. But that, dude, play with your toys with your kid. Just have fun together. Build shit together. Like you said, explore it. Like, let them have fun, but have fun with them. Get 2 fucking childhoods for the price of 1.
Well, and mind you, right? So the show up framework actually deals with any aspect, any part of life. Yeah, I would say in the preteen stage, what you're doing is you're again, because they're coming into their independence.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little younger. I'm still thinking about my kid. I'm excited.
Hey,
like I'm
show up for your
cartoons,
kid
dude.
too. Yeah. Show up
Footy
there too.
pajamas and cartoons on Saturday. I'm in, man. Like, let's do this. I'll watch with you. What are we watching?
But then when they become like 18 and 19 and they're still in pajamas,
No, they don't want me there.
Get it.
No, that's weird. That's a whole different show. That's Dr. Phil's area.
Yeah, right. But they're going to have things that they want to explore, hobbies and places they want to be stretched. And it's just like, dude, I support you in that. There's certain principles towards projects, and these are the principles. And you know how I know these principles? Because I'm working on my own project over here. And in the show up framework, you're being a moral exemplar. You're being an example on the side, because you know what? They are going to go waywardly. There are going to be things that you don't agree with, and they're going to go off. But it's being a trustworthy present parent that they know you still got their back when they go off.
Be a lighthouse.
Hey.
Always be a lighthouse. Hold your place. Do what you were made to do. And only that, and everybody else will take their cues from you. They'll find your way because you become a permanent fixture. You are something that they can reference 10 years from now or 10 minutes from now. They know that is Marcus, that is Jay, that is Dad, that is Mom. I'll go back to them. And they're going to be standing there saying, this is who I am, right?
Yeah. And mind you, I mean, everything contextual. A lighthouse is, I'm acting in my virtues and values for your well-being. That's not to say sometimes you don't need boundaries.
Shut off your lights. Just turn the lights off, dude, like a porch. On Halloween, you don't want to give out candy. If you're done giving out advice, just shut your light off for a little while. I'm cool with it. Everybody needs a break.
Yeah, shut off your lights. But still be that lighthouse, right? But it's I'm doing this for your well-being, and it's not tough love. But again, it is. I need you to be independent, and or hey, a mom and dad needs this. I need this separation, actually. For you know what? I trust your wisdom as a parent to make that wise choice. But when I say be a place where they can come back to, you're not the source of their distress. They always know that you are the source of their well-being. And sometimes well-being, love looks like boundaries sometimes.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, you remember that ball that they had with the rubber band that you could punch and it would come back to you over and over again? You don't want that. Like, you don't want to, where it's like you keep coming back and you get a fist to the face over and over again. Yeah, dude, that's tiring. All right, where are we? What letter?
UP, unveil your potential. Yeah, I put them all together. Yeah,
I like that. No, that's probably one of the most important, because I think we grow to limitations.
Life is about expansion. If you are the universe experiencing itself, you're expanding. And the way you expand is by showing up. Yeah. Again, show up.
You're not wrong. When you were showing that inverted triangle, and I kept thinking that there was one piece in the successful life, and that is action. You will end up being a victim through inaction, but action always creates outcomes no matter what. The moment that you sit still and become inactive is the moment that you give up on life. If you want dreams, success, happiness, whatever is your compass that gives you happiness, you're not going to get it by wanting it.
Yeah, you need some motion towards it.
You got to move, right? Yeah. Nobody's going to feed you. You want steak, you got to go get steak, right? They're not going to bring it to you because you cried that you didn't get any or somebody else got some, right?
Yep. You're right. And in communication, we say you cannot not communicate. Like, you are sending a message by being inactive. And again, it's every character has a desire, and you are worthy of your desires to move towards it.
Do it.
Now, mind you, I say that with the caveat that if your desire is to be still, then be still when you need to be still. But if there's a desire for something you want, like you said, steak, you got to move towards it. You got to move towards it.
You have to. And why not? Right. And I love
Mm,
that you're talking about potential, because I feel like we grow to, like I said, limitations. And I think that that is because from day one, we're given the insecurities of our parents. We're given
mm,
a jacket that says this is all you're capable of, because that's what I was capable of, maybe a little bit more. But I
mm,
don't like I don't like being weighted in advance. Don't tell me what I can't do before I show up. Don't tell me piano is hard. Don't
mm.
tell me rock climbing is hard. Don't tell me anything. Let me show up and I'll decide whether it's hard
I'll
or not,
figure it
because
out.
you might have fucking tied weights to me. You
Yeah.
gave me insecurities in advance. Don't give your kids insecurities in advance. Let them find out. Because if you put a limitation on it, what's going to create is just a shit ton of practice to get to where they would have been if you'd have let them fucking go for it full force.
Well, Jay, let me share this perspective with you. I say you're responsible for you as a parent, and in doing that,
Mm,
everybody forms insecurities in life. And you know
mhm.
what? You may not mean to share some insecurities with your kids, but stuff is going to pass on. Yet
Genetically, it's there. Dude, it is.
all of us individually have the work to alleviate
Mhm,
ourselves of those. Society's going to give it to us. Some coaches, some teachers, like it's going to happen. Like, and
mhm.
you know what? Because you're not going to be the first person to easy breezy go through life, because life isn't like that. If you're a parent and you have added those, your responsibility is to repair and correct what was wrong. Like you don't want to willfully do this, but it will happen. Give
Mhm.
them the skills on how to take those chains off. You don't want to help contribute to it, but you want to help contribute to alleviate it, right?
It's keys.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
keys. I feel like we're all an infinite number of locks that have a different thing behind each one.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go through life, we're to create those keys and hand them out, right? And we don't care where they're going. All our job is just to create those keys. And when we take them in, that person can unlock the first lock or the last lock. We don't care. We just give them the keys to be able to find their way, and they'll open it up. Or, like in a race, dude, they'll catch up to you when they catch up to you, as long as you did
Yeah.
the right thing on the way. I
Yep.
think that's what you're doing, man. You're running the race and you're throwing keys out like nobody's business. And that is badass, because how's that
Talk
crowd
to me.
starting to look to your left and right? It's got to be pretty cool. They got to be catching up with you. You've been doing this for a long time. It's a beautiful thing to know that there are people out there with locks unlocked, because
Mm,
you spent time being you, right?
yeah, man. And you know what? Just thanks for the platform, because that I have to step onto my own podcast, so I'll invite you then. But the whole idea
Absolutely,
is
man.
the whole idea is yeah, you can't be what you can't see. And the reason I am like this is because other people gave me keys, and that's what we do in life. Hope the next generation does us one better.
I think that's our job. It's
Yeah.
to help that next generation. I think it's a beautiful generation, and that I've never seen empathy so strong, right?
Okay.
I've never
Yeah.
seen the need for equality so
Mm,
inherent to the entire generation. That said, those sons of bitches are X-Men, and they're like
mm-hmm,
that guy Cyclops with
mm-hmm.
no visor on, just mowing shit down. We got to give them glasses. Chill out, man. Hold on. You just canceled a continent. Relax, chief. Like, let's do this a little more methodically. Let's, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they are 100% pure intent.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
trying so hard to bring everybody together on the
Mm-hmm.
same level. And it's our job to give them those lenses so that they have some wisdom to be able to pick and choose what can be the most effective approach. Right.
I love that X-Men metaphor. Yeah, it landed. I love them growing up.
Yeah,
I'm hopeful. I have hope in the future.
I
And when
see
I
it.
say hope, hope is three things. One, you can envision a brighter future. Two, you know the action, or you have a plan. And three, you're willing to take the next step. The next step for me is a show up framework to give to parents. And this is a beautiful thing. I'm doing all of this. Stories don't cost anything. I want
Mm,
to, and what? Let me get to this. Um, I see the future as Africa and India, because that's where the youth is and aged. Like the developing world is aging itself out. One, 2, the cost of technology is going to be driven down so low that you can get stories to these places, whereas we can tell more empowering stories. Every culture has virtues and values. When we start to act from that, we can start to be more integrated. And dare I say, maybe even change the world. I don't know.
I believe that we will. I think it's beautiful. I believe that we are in the beginning stages of a collective consciousness on a major level. It's just put together with hangers and antennas and other garbage at the moment, but it is slowly becoming a web of fibers that are passing on information that didn't cross country lines, much less, around the corner. We weren't able to share the knowledge that we have now. I think we're all finding out that, much like yourself, I'm spiritual. I think that all religions are part of a pizza, right? I think that each wedge is another topping, right? Each one's a different topping. It doesn't matter. They're all pointing to the Mesopotamian River Valley or some shit, whatever. That's, in my mind, this is what I see. They all have great tenets. They all say do good. What's wrong with it? They all say we're going somewhere better, right? My philosophy is, or not philosophy, my
belief
take on it is, or my belief is that we're already in heaven.
Yeah.
I believe that we're actually there, and that heaven is a collective waking up or understanding of our position and who we are. And I like that because it does not require so much massive change to get an understanding or a death of ego in some manner, to give you that break, to give people the ability to interact. I heard a story the other day about a white supremacist leader that took part in a study and was given, I want to say LSD or one of those psychedelics.
Psilocybin.
And it might have been psilocybin. And he came out of it the other side with a inherent need to not be the person that he was and did not have the same views on humanity. Yeah. That's pretty fucking cool. It also says, why don't we just give Congress a cup of tea?
Hey, man.
and lock the doors. Just leave them all in there, pump some smoke in it, and just stand back. They'll come out different. Well,
it's set and setting, so I don't know if they're as it calls, those will come. And if they're in the right mindset.
I know.
Yeah.
The wishful thinking. I know that there's going to be a lot of scary shit if you're locked in a room with your enemies and taking shrooms. I can see how that would freak you the F out.
I think there's a timing coming to vibrate to a higher consciousness. And
dude, the earth is telling us.
And leadership, it will get there. I think so.
Well, I think we write our future. Just like you said, it's a story. I think all these stories are writing us into the next level of consciousness. Science fiction is the tell. We allow it to create faster than anything else because we don't give it inhibition. We allow its creativity to hit the screen and become real life at the snap of a finger because we believe in it. So we're going to go the direction that we give the least amount of inhibition. So we're writing a story that says that all of humanity is headed towards some form of heaven. It's just a matter of whether or not we trust in it and whether or not we all come together. We're not going to get there by being separate. We're going to get there by being together, right?
This reminds me of a quick story where this guy went into deep sleep, said he went to heaven and he saw these people sitting around a bowl. They were sitting on the edges of the bowl and they had these long spoons. Have you heard this story?
No, this sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then he snapped out of it and he went back to sleep again. And then he went down to hell and he saw again these people sitting in a rim and they had the same spoons, except these people, they were emaciated. These skinny people, and they were all trying to feed themselves. And he woke up and he told his wife, he said, you know what? I had this strange dream. He's like, in heaven, these people were fat, they were happy, they were all joyous, and they had these spoons. And in hell, they had the same spoons, but they were all emaciated. And his wife said, well, what was the difference? He said, in heaven, they took the spoons and they were feeding one another. But in hell, the spoons were too long when they were trying to feed themselves. And they couldn't get the soup.
Oh, that's such a great analogy, metaphor, story.
Like we have the tools, like you're saying, all the
Dude, you're
tools are
not
presently
wrong.
with us. How are we using the tools for the well-being of others?
I think that's a great place to end today.
Hey,
I think that you are being a lighthouse, like I said earlier. I
boom.
genuinely appreciate what you're doing. I think that people are going to benefit from the rocks that you're throwing in the pond. They're going to continue to ripple forever. And when they
Hey,
hit the shoreline, they're going to come back. Right. That's the way I like to look at it. I appreciate you. I see you. You have beautiful hair. Don't ever cut
takes
that
one to
off.
know one, eh?
Yeah, right. Yeah, hey,
I see you. I
right.
see you.
Tell everybody where they can find you and get your information and services and benefit from all of this.
MarcusHiggs.com. That's my name. There's a contact form there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be posting there, and I'm doing some workshops over the summer in regards to parents connecting with their preteens. Also, I'm looking for beta testers for the Show Up framework. It's I'm bringing in other experts to speak about
Love it.
the SHOW, starting with our character, opening up communication, and so on. And while I provide my coaching services, so I'm starting that community, and I'm 6 months in this business, getting some traction, getting it going, and I'm looking forward. It's wonderful to have met you on the journey, Jay. And for anybody who wants to come out and reach me,
I appreciate that. And likewise, just have fun doing what you're doing. And the rest of it's going to come together the way it's supposed to come together.
Hey, thank you for those words, man.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. I genuinely appreciate you. And for those of you wondering, Gary is out taking care of some personal things and family things. He's not gone. Other than that, you guys know, remember, be cool and keep learning.